Good morning. Welcome to another wellness weekend. My name is Kathy Rañeses. I work as the in-house life coach at Centro Holistico, and I'm joined today with one of our lovely Centro doctors, Doc Gladys Reyes. Good morning, Doc.
Hi, Kathy. Good morning.
Kamusta? How's your weekend been so far?
Busy but good naman. Today will be
Mm.
chill lang. So, hopefully.
Yeah, I was telling you the same thing, Kanina. I'm like, I want to have a really lovely, unproductive Sunday because the weather
Yep.
is just
The
calling
way.
for it.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
nice and overcast, and ang sarap maging plantita lang this morning.
I just want to chill with the dog today.
Exact same. So Doc, we have such an interesting topic today, which
Hmm.
is like healing through self-care.
Sure.
And I think, self-care has kind of become a trending term when everybody kind of went into ECQ. Now we don't really like we hear it, but we don't really understand, I think, like what it is. And there are different interpretations of what self-care is, what
Mhm.
healing is. um and to the point that there are ads targeted at women that talk about what their version of self-care is, which might be like shaving your legs
Mhm.
and losing weight, etc., which isn't necessarily parang it isn't necessarily healthy
Sure.
depending on the wellness journey that you're on.
Yeah.
And I know, Doc, that you also went through your own kind of self-care healing journey yourself. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, I was an incoming medical clerk, actually, fourth year in medical
Mm.
school, when I got diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. So,
Mhm.
myasthenia gravis, it's an autoimmune chronic disorder wherein there's a destruction between the connection of nerves and muscles. So, technically,
Mm.
it's a muscle weakening disorder. So,
Oh, wow.
it affected a lot of my voluntary muscles, specifically my eyes. So I would get
Mm.
ptosis. And then it also affected my upper limbs. There was a time that I couldn't even brush my hair because I couldn't lift it up.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and for an active person like me
Mm.
in the hospital, that wasn't like the best situation.
Yeah.
Kasi everything, like what makes the symptoms worse were infection, stress, and activity. So,
Mm.
and it's those things are with like outside of my control. I
Yeah.
didn't know how my days would look like or how my duties would be toxic. Yon. So I was really a pill popper then. I would take medications every 4, sometimes 3 hours, depending on
Mm.
how stressful or how toxic that day is or
Mm-mm.
was. So yon. Yun yung Yes, I was that person 2016 actually. That was
Oh, wow,
2016.
kailan lang?
Yeah, that was 2016.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
So there I had to go through the rest of medical school like that. Without really knowing what was gonna happen to me.
mm.
Parang my savior then was taking the pills because that
Mm.
would make me feel better. Because the treatment of choice was really either that medication, mestinone, or I undergo surgery or I take immunosuppressant drugs, which
Yeah.
weren't my options. Like I didn't want to do those things. So
Yeah.
yes, it was a pill popper.
Oh my gosh. So like what happened? Like what kind of turned it around for you? Because I mean, you're totally fine now. And you work at Centro. So alam
Yeah.
mo, so it looks like things worked out for you. So like what kind of happened between then and now that,
Sure.
that kind of put you on that road to healing?
I don't tell a lot of people this, but it really was central. I discovered
Mm.
functional medicine. And that's how things started to change. I was a
Mm.
patient first in Centro Holistico before I became a doctor there. And it was
Galing.
actually, yeah, it's why I really enjoy my time as a doctor in Centro because I get to share these things to my patients.
Yeah.
So it's actually it's Doc Candy who was my functional medicine physician then. She was the one
Mm.
who helped me through the process, bit by bit, because
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy thing to do. Like both you and I know how autoimmunity was at the end of the spectrum of
Yeah.
inflammation kasi.
Hmm.
So a lot of the things that I had to do was really nutrition based,
Yeah.
and being in the hospital, in the government hospital, wasn't the best
Yeah.
parang
Super
environment
stressful.
to be
Yeah.
in. And then, especially with the food, I had to, kunyari, duty ako for 36 hours. I would have to be in the hospital. So I have to prepare at least 6 meals. And I have to bring it to the hospital with
Oh my
me.
gosh,
I
effort
didn't have
talaga.
any choice. And then, but kapag walang baon, I would have to do my best to pick the best, meals that I could get within my
Mm.
reach. Like
Yeah.
at some point I would mix fruits with isda or like any kind of gulay. I mean, I knew my diet then wasn't perfect. Na I wasn't
Mm.
fully um implementing the elimination diet, but I had
Mm-mm.
to make do with what I had.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it was roughly for like a year or even 8 months
Mm-hmm.
through the nutrition, and I was getting acupuncture and also colon cleansing in Central Holistico. I
Mm-mm.
slowly cut down my medication intake. So
Galing.
every 4 hours, maybe every six. And Doc Candy knows this. She always asks me, "How's your? I know, are you still taking medications?" Because Kathy, the medication was my parang savior then. Eh. If
Correct.
I didn't take medications, I would have the symptoms, and
Yeah.
the medication was a symptomatic relief.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
So it was really parang an outcome for me na parang when I started to lessen the
Mm.
intake of medications, I knew something was like really working well for me, or something was working right
Yeah.
in the
I,
right.
I I love that because what I'm hearing from you, from your story, it really is about how healing really is a journey. It's not this. I mean, it can be, and you can take the pills and it will address the symptoms, but it doesn't really get to the root cause of the problem, which is why
Mhm.
probably when we do medication, it's for life na. It's like
Yes.
it's we already like tanggap na natin that it's maintenance meds na. But the route that you went on, it was really about slowly, like knowing that you slowly needed to let go of it paunti-unti,
Yes.
and
Yes.
really kind of like making those decisions to change the diet, to
Mm-hmm.
do different things that may be out of your lifestyle or out of your
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone, and really integrate it with your life. So parang from what I'm hearing with you, like adjusting, making sure that like you still keep to the diet as
Mm-hmm.
much as possible. It's really that retraining to just make kind of like better decisions, and it's lifetime. So instead of taking the
Yes.
maintenance meds for a lifetime, you've kind of re-educated yourself to just eat better and to manage stress better, and that's kind of all you needed in order to reverse this debilitating disease that you had. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And you were right. It was a push and pull for me back then. It wasn't like a
Mm,
straight path
yeah.
because I was also scared that if I don't take my meds, what would happen to me? I wouldn't know kasi like how worse could it get.
Yeah.
So it was a push and pull for me. And then being active before, I had to stop for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I would run. That's how I
Mm,
release
yeah.
stress. I run outside, and because ever since I got diagnosed, I had to like stop my activities because I was already putting my body in a lot of stress by
Yeah.
going in duties. So parang all my physical activities outside of that were limited or
Oh
not
my
were.
gosh.
And so
Mm.
like that was like the last thing I wanted to hear, because that was like the only way I could actually release stress
Yeah.
was running. And that was taken away from me. And for
Yeah.
some time that was like, you know what, that was one of the things that really parang pushed me to keep going in this direction. Kasi
Mm.
parang I want to go back being active. I still had my dream to finish a marathon back then. So it was
Mm.
really like, like glad, just do things one thing at a time. It wasn't fast, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I would had to start for someone who would run a 6K or 10K in a whiff before. That time, parang I had to start with a 3K or a
Yeah.
4, and like be there for like a month or two. It was heartbreaking for me, but I knew I had to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
that was a push and pull that I had to, realize what my body can do at that time
Mm.
and move forward from there.
And
So yeah.
kudos to you. I mean, like, like, I mean, you still, like, no, if even if it was just a 1K, like, you were
Mm,
dedicated talaga to, like, go back and start compared
yes.
to, like, maybe somebody else would have given up, and totally, I don't want to do marathons anymore because this is me now. Alam mo yun? Like, super victim story. Which also kind of reminds me of, like, my own kind of healing journey through
Mm-hmm.
self-care with Centro also. It was actually Centro that really put me on the right path. Kasi before, I mean, super bumenta sa akin yung limiting belief na, if your success looks like parati kang puyat, parati ka
Ah,
stress, wala kang
yeah.
tulog, you work for corporate,
Yep.
like the belief is the higher up you are in the ladder, the more successful you look like, and then the more puyat and the more stressed you are. But parang sleep is for the weak. Parang
Yes.
yun yung ano before. And that was the belief system that for me was super ingrained. Kasi like
Mm.
growing up, like being in college, parang for some weird reason, yun yung pinapangarap ng lahat. Like gusto ko talaga ng toxic na trabaho. It will define my worth, and I will be successful kasi yun yung levels ko. But for me, parang taking on a really stressful job, not getting enough sleep, etc., it actually triggered my hypothyroid. So I didn't even know. My
Mm.
mom has hyperthyroid.
Okay.
So sa akin, it triggered my hypo,
Okay.
and I crashed and burned. Like I really had to stop everything. Kasi yun, like I was gaining a ridiculous amount of weight. I didn't even know if it was weight or manas at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Parang that's how I felt. I felt super manas. I felt really fatigued. I was tired all the time. My diet was really bad. It was mostly fast food kasi yun yung pinakamabilis pa order while you're
Yes.
working,
Yeah.
right? And it was terrible. So I went to the doctor, and then their diagnosis was you need to take this pill, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Maintenance mo na yan.
Mm-hmm.
And buti na lang I had the parang sense to ask, Doc, may mga side effects ba to? And he was
Mm.
like, good thing
Okay.
you asked. So, kailangan mo rin itong parang liver protectant while you take this.
Ah, by
Kasi,
the way.
kasi it'll probably damage your liver and your kidney. So, you need to take this also along with this. And I was like,
Mm.
that doesn't sound practical. And he was already kind of medyo tinatakot niya ako na, pili
Mm.
ka, either lalalayan, magkakasakit ka, blah blah blah, or you take the pill, and either you go back to your normal weight or you have no control over it na. So it's 50-50, pero 'di ba, at least kahit papaano naka-maintenance ka na. So I was like, can I think about it? Para that hindi maganda yung ano sa akin like hindi maganda yung outcome regardless.
Yeah.
So, so I was like, you know what? Like it was lifestyle. Like I had the sense to kind of realize it was lifestyle that got me into the situation. So
Wow.
maybe
Good
a
for
change of
you.
lifestyle would help me get out of it. So yeah, so I quit the stressful job, etc. But I didn't realize how big my gut and my diet played a part in my healing journey until I went to Central. and just sitting down. Si Doc Candy rin was my doctor. Sitting down with Doc Candy and her just explaining what was going on in my body was the baon that I needed to kind of say, okay, sige, I need to change this because
Mm-hmm.
this is what it's doing to my body, and just change, like going on an elimination diet is just gonna help my body immensely.
Yeah.
And then it really is a journey. Like I've been with Center for I think 2 years now, and I'm still on
Ah,
it. I'm
yeah.
still on it, but like I've never had, like I was actually scared ng ECQ. Parang feeling ko, oh my gosh, baka matitrigger na naman siya kasi everybody is stressed out, and it's this forever, this level of stress. So I was like,
Yes.
oh, is it gonna trigger it? Is it gonna trigger it? But so far, wala naman.
Great.
And I for me, it's all because of Central.
Sure. You know what, Kathy? That was so super nice to hear. And good for you that you actually had that insight. Na it might be lifestyle or nutrition. Because for me, I went to Central because I had no, like, it was my last resort.
Mm,
Like, it's either like I went into it not knowing what Central does or what functional medicine is. But
yeah.
I find this parang similar to a lot of our patients na parang we didn't have any other choice.
Mm,
This path, or we go through the other way na parang
mm,
there's parang dead end.
yeah.
So parang it was really parang good for you that you actually parang you had an insight. But like
Mm,
a lot of our patients actually parang last resort po kami as doctors
yeah.
in Centro
Mm,
na, we didn't know what to do anymore. So why not try this? And I
yeah.
agree with you na it took some time for us to realize that, it's nutrition and the lifestyle. And if we
Mm,
don't get ourselves out of those situations, we'll just like digging our own grave, literally. It's like we just go
totoo.
into the
Yeah.
situation. So I'm really happy that thanks for sharing that, Kathy.
Yeah, no, I think kasi from where I was coming from, like I'm naturally a problem solver. Like I like
Mm,
solving these, like, ano meron. Okay, how can we creatively like solve
definitely.
this? And when it came to my health and my hypothyroid, I was diagnosed, I was like in my late 20s. And I
Mm.
was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, late 20s ako, naka-maintenance meds na ako. Hindi pwede
Same
yan.
thoughts. Yeah, same thoughts. Yep.
So, I think it was a mix of like ego and at the same time also that challenge of there's probably another solution out there. Like for me, taking the meds is my last like choice.
Yeah.
Kasi parang in my head, alam ko na like if I started taking that, it's really going to be just downhill for me, just slower.
Mm. Mhm.
So alam mo yun, so I was like, I need to find that solution where
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a solution there where I can be 100% healthy on
Yep.
this, like on my continuum of wellness, and not just slowly declining into the other direction. So I think like that's what really pushed me.
That's
And
great.
yeah, and just learning nga about like even just the simple how your gut works, right?
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
what you feed it and how it affects the gut. Like I used to think that I would eat a lot of sugar because I needed the energy.
Energy.
I needed
Yeah.
the energy to like to think, to get throughout the day,
Yep.
etc. Kasi high stressing job. So I always had like Snicker bars in my bag, and etc.
Mhm.
And that's how I thought of it until Doc Candy explained to me like the number one killer of anything good in your gut is sugar. And so she was explaining na yeah, like you eat nga the sugar to get the sugar high, to get the energy, but it's actually killing your good microbiome. So
Mhm.
you aren't even absorbing the nutrients of the good stuff that you're eating. And I was like, oh nga, that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, Kathy, that's a no, parang good point that you mentioned that because we do have a lot of misconceptions about what being healthy looks like. Even
Yeah.
I, when as an undergrad, I would think na less calories the better. Well, yes, in some way, yes, that's still
Calorie deficit. Yeah.
calorie deficit is the way to go to be healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
at some point, I was okay with just eating a sandwich. And that would go on for like years. And
Mm.
like living alone, having, no time to prepare my own meals or stressing out over other things. Like you said, anything fast and easy were preferable.
Yeah.
Kaya, like calorie deficit, go, game ako dyan. Or
Yeah.
even, limiting. And then parang we never realized that the quality of the food that we're eating matters more.
Mm.
And like we don't have to be scared to actually eat protein or to actually eat fat or to
Yeah.
actually eat carbohydrates or
Mm-hmm.
include it in our meals without like being afraid that it's going to make us fat or it's going
Yeah.
to make us, overweight. And
Mm.
that's one of the things that we want to point out to our patients. It's like, don't be afraid to eat. Eating is,
Mm.
you know, that's how we get our energy and
Yeah.
how we get to do all the things that we want to do in life. But you have to be parang enjoy also the process of eating and to be able to enjoy that. Parang less na yung worry mo na
Mm.
whatever I'm eating is not healthy or protein or ganyan. But it
Yeah.
should be just the fact that the quality of the food that you're eating is there.
For sure. And I think that's like one of the biggest misconceptions of self care, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's either you indulge too much,
Mm.
like, oh, I'm eating like all this chocolate and all this ano, kasi I'm caring for myself. It's self care. Or naman, you super restrict yourself of,
Yes.
like zero carbs, like zero sugar, zero anything, yung kain kuneho, simply because, oh, this is what self care
Yeah.
looks like, which it really isn't. It really is understanding the what it is that you feed your body. And like what Doc Sasa always says is food is information. So
Yes.
what
Definitely.
what are you kind of teaching your body in terms of, in terms of stuff that it should be absorbing, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of my biggest aha moments as well with Doc Candy. Because, like, of course, as you know, during the consults, you guys go through our meals for like
Yes.
for the week, etc. And I was going through my meals with Doc Candy. And for that week, doon ko na realize, oh nga, no, puro hummus lang pala yung kinakain ko, like, for the week. So parang
Mm.
lunch, merienda would be hummus, and then dinner would be something else. But yun
Yeah.
yung consistent. She was like, ang puti ng diet mo, no? Everything that you're eating is just white.
Yeah.
So really learning to add color
Mm.
to my
Exactly.
diet, I think, was like the biggest thing for me. And then, feeling the effects after now,
Yes.
because I'm drinking my vegetables, I'm eating my fruits, I'm getting that fiber that I need, and I feel full for a lot more, or
Mm.
for, like, for a lot longer. But it
Mhm.
really is about, I realize it really is about just being mindful
Sure.
of
Yeah.
what it is that you're eating, and that should really be a big part of your self-care. Not
Yes.
just eating what's available, but making sure that you can plan out and you can be mindful of what's on your plate.
That's correct talaga, Kathy, because even in my experience, the way forward for me na parang, wow, this is really working. The first time that I woke up not feeling bloated or not having
Mm.
acidity, I was like,
Mm.
this is possible. Because like there wouldn't come a time that I wouldn't take antacids or PPI
Mm.
because I was, chronically hyperacidic or, bloated. So
Yeah.
parang for me, wow, this good feeling pala is possible that I can actually maintain this. And that's how I learned to actually parang pinpoint, like be more like to listen to how I'm feeling whenever I'm eating.
Yeah.
And like, or let's say, oh, wait, I had the bloating today. What did I eat yesterday? And
Mm-mm.
so being
Milk,
more
probably.
conscientious about like what I'm eating, the
Mm.
things that I put in my body really matters. And
Yeah.
sometimes parang it's it's a second thought for a lot of people
Oh,
kasi.
for
And
sure.
I can't blame anyone because that's how we
We're
grow up.
raised. Yeah,
Yeah, right?
exactly.
So what's available, you have to eat it. Whatever happens to you, you eat it. But
Uh-oh.
now that we have better choices and we can make our own choices, then hopefully that we can be more we learn to listen to how our body feels. And
Mm,
when it says something, when you know, when you get bloated, you listen to it and just don't like, it's gonna go away.
yeah.
Because it's definitely telling you something.
Or worse, when you normalize it. I think for me, like that's a great like peg for when you know you're doing your self-care journey right, is when
Mm-hmm.
you wake up in the morning and you're like, wait, this is what normal feels like.
Yes.
I've been living with all this like gas and heartburn,
Yep.
etc., and accepted it as normal, and now that I actually feel normal, parang this is what it feels like pala.
Yeah,
Like,
even with sleep.
mm,
Even with sleep, Kathy, like
for
parang when
sure.
you wake up, it's like, whoa, that's sleep. And then you feel energized and you don't actually have to like, 10 more minutes or 30
Oh,
more minutes. You're actually up and ready to do your day.
yeah.
And I definitely agree. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, 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 that no, like it totally makes sense because yeah, I mean, like once you kind of, I mean, the great thing is we've both gone through some level of healing, and we're both on our wellness journeys, but we also, it's also part of what we do working with patients, work on
Yes.
theirs.
Yes.
So what's great is we have a personal perspective of
Yes.
what it is and what the self-care journey should really look like. So it's not just us like preaching. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, this is from walking the talk and really putting
Mm-hmm.
in years of self-care, and just
Yes.
realizing that this is what self-care looks like. It's not, oh, I'm going to binge on Netflix for an
Mm-hmm.
entire week because I deserve it and it's self-care, or I'm going to eat all the chocolate and all the popcorn because I'm caring for myself, or feeling bad about your self-care journey because you wanted to lose, I don't know, like let's say 15 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
but you haven't gotten there yet. And I
Sure.
think a lot of people, they kind of give up on their self-care journey because they're either too lax with themselves
Mm.
or too hard on themselves.
Yes. Um,
And and then they kind of stop there because of course they aren't getting the self-care results that they need. They still feel the same. So for you, Doc Gladys, do you have any tips for those who want to start on their self-care journey and just need that poke in the right direction?
Sure. Well, kasi Kathy, like you said, self care is very different. Like I have my own self care. You have like a different self care. So
Mm,
definitely everyone else would have a different parang idea or a different picture of how self care is for them. And so, whenever I talk to my patients, I always tell them that these are just all recommendations. I'm laying everything down here on the table for you to pick, because
mm,
one of the things that I really parang appreciate about my own self care is like I pick small things and I integrate it in my own
mm.
parang daily routine. Because
Yeah.
the way you want to see it is that's why it's self care. It has to be part of your daily life, and in order for you to fully parang accept or like really do things, is you have to enjoy it. And parang for the
Totoo.
longest time, at parang kasi sasabi mo, oh, you have to eat healthy, ganyan, you have to learn how to cook. It took me 4 years to prepare my own, like really cook my own meals. Like before, I was
Mm,
just preparing simple stuff. It took me 4 years to finally got the chance to like enjoy preparing my own meals. And
mm,
that's okay. You take whatever you can. Don't stress out
mm.
on like, oh, her self-care looks like this, it has to be like
Yeah.
this. You figure out what makes you happy and you integrate it in your in your daily parang daily routine. And I'm a routinary
Mm.
person. I have my own schedule in my head, Kathy, and that for me, including these things in my schedule in my routine really matters. And you know,
Mm.
why would I do something that I don't enjoy? So that's my self-care is definitely different from yours.
Yeah.
So yun lang yung ano ko for everyone who's listening. You know, small changes. You don't need to be one big thing. Everyone is still going through their self-care journey. Whatever that looks like for them, then power
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I'm the same. Like, routines, having routines are very important for me
Mhm.
because it also it grounds you throughout the day and it gives you that structure, so you kind
Definitely.
of know what to expect throughout the day.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same as well. For me, I like to tell patients who are starting their self care journey, try and look at your life or your
Mm-hmm.
day and kind of see where is it that I feel I'm struggling in terms of caring for myself and really starting there. And speaking of routines, like I love like one of the first kind of like assignments that I like to give patients is coming up with a morning routine, which
Ah,
is come hell or high water, gagawin nyo yan. And it's really that parang giving yourself that 5 minutes or an hour of your morning specifically dedicated to your self-care.
yes.
So whether it is 5 minutes of just mindfully making and enjoying a cup of coffee in the morning, or if it's more complicated, you want to add prayer, meditation,
Mhm.
yoga, etc., it's really up to you, but
Yes.
the intention is sa umaga pa lang you're already parang showing yourself care, compassion and love para it grounds you, and then you kind of fill up your own love tank in a way by
Mhm.
honoring yourself para when you have to go out into the world and be of service to your kids, your husband, your
Yep.
coworkers, may baon ka na. So at the
Yes.
end of the day, you don't feel like super bagsak
Mm-hmm.
because out ka lang ng out. Like people need you, you need to help your kids, your husband needs something. And if they don't return that love to you, parang feeling mo dapang-dapa ka at the end of the day and you're
Yeah,
like, what about me?
got it.
So for
Yep.
me, like the morning routine talaga is perfect to, okay, I'm gonna love myself first. Para whatever happens during the day, bonus na lang yon.
Yep.
But I
Mhm.
have enough in me that I'm still taking care of. I've taken care of myself in the morning. I can be of service to others throughout the day, and I can come back at night knowing that, oh, may baon pa akong konti. So
Mhm.
I could do whatever self love practices or whatever self care practices works for me at night,
Yeah.
and then in the morning you just kind of repeat that, and it just makes you feel better,
Yep.
right at the end of the day.
Can I add into it, Kathy?
Yeah.
Kasi parang, um, all everyone's journey is not perfect.
Mm.
Even if we get to build that routine, right, that we were talking about, there are days when we're not 100% for sure. There are
Mhm.
days when you feel like I want to eat this burger, and that's okay. I personally, I think the way I was able to carry all these like good parang habits in terms of eating or doing self-care practices is really parang if there's a time na I'm craving, I would say that's okay. I will take a
Yeah.
piece because I've been, it helps me to make things long term because I'm not
Yeah,
craving for anything and I don't beat myself up for eating a burger
for
because
sure.
that's, I know it's part of my self-love. Like I am giving into things because I did my best to stick to what I know is best for my
Mm.
body. And this
Yeah.
is just, a craving. As long
Yeah,
as I'm not doing it every day.
exactly.
And so it's the same way with the other routines. If you don't get to, work out today, do tomorrow. Do it tomorrow.
Mm.
Don't beat yourself up if you didn't get to do one thing that's part of your self care.
For
Um,
sure.
Definitely, it's not going to be 100% all the time, but you
Yeah.
try your best every day.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. No, it's self care. It really is
Mm-hmm.
about care. It's not about being hard on yourself. And
Yes, exactly.
the our healing journeys. It's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint.
Yes,
You can't go from 0 to 100.
exactly.
I'm gonna start my wellness journey today and tomorrow okay na ako. Like that's not how it works.
Mhm. I
So, but
agree.
I think like that's the misconception as well, right? With self-care, it's like, oh, you have to be like this,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be a certain way, you have to eat certain things, etc. And it's so restrictive that you can't enjoy it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's totally fine to, go off the wagon
Yep.
for one day, and
Yep.
then, it's fine. I'll behave naman tomorrow. I'm gonna go back to it tomorrow. Wag ka lang mamamahay sa wag ka lang mamamahay doon. Just it's okay to just, 'di ba? Like my inner dialogue whenever I'm considering like should I give in or should I, it's usually okay, so who's stronger? Like you or like the burger? And if
Ah,
it's
yeah.
and I'm like, okay, like for today it's probably the burger because I've been looking for that for weeks na. So I just tell myself, okay, sige, basta tomorrow behave ka na ulit. So,
Mhm.
and you just you take the time to
Exactly. Yes.
enjoy it instead of feeling guilty. Ito kinakain mo na masama pa yung feeling mo. Alam mo yun, just
Might as well
i-en
enjoy it.
oo, 'di ba? Kasi sa kinain mo masama yung feeling mo, uulitin mo ulit bukas and it's just a
Mhm.
self-loathing cycle.
Yes.
Doc Candy
Exactly.
says, or drinking wine or sangria when someone passes her certification exam.
Oh my God.
Binubuking ka ni Doc Candy. No, but like, it's what's great I feel about the self-care journey as well is when you do mindfully fall off the wagon because it's a choice,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Like I am making the choice. You really get to savor whatever that moment is a lot more than
Yes.
if you were just kind of, I'm gonna have a burger again today and then ano kaya kakainin ko bukas na burger. Like
Yeah.
you aren't in the moment. But now that you know that, okay, this is a treat that I'm giving myself like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I have it, it's like sulit na sulit ko siya.
Yeah, it's funny because there was one time I was still with, consulting with Doc Candy, and I remember there was gonna be a party for my batch, and then I
Mm.
actually asked Doc Candy. I was like, "No, pwede ba ako mag-wine? Kasi we're celebrating today." And she was like, "Go ahead." And as doctors in Central, and we know how it feels. So
Yeah.
we definitely, we're not gonna limit our patients. It's just, it's a partnership. So we always encourage them to try your best to stick with it.
Yeah.
But, they know their bodies more. So, yun.
Exactly. And I think what I love about Central Doctors as well, for me personally, is that you guys meet us where we're at in our healing journey.
Yes. Yes.
It's not like walang pilitan.
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, I was kind of dreading my first consult with Doc Candy when I had it because I was like, oh, kung ano pagbabawal sa akin nito. Ah." And so I was in my head like that's how it was going to go,
Yeah.
but it really wasn't. It was just her explaining, okay, this is what's happening pag kumain ka ng sugar, this is what
Mm-hmm.
happens. If you only eat like food that looks like white and brown, this is what
Mm-hmm.
happens to your gut, etc. And it was out of the like her educating me and going through the treatments that you kind of realize that, what, like this is starting to feel good for me,
Mm.
or gets ko na kung bakit ito yung sinasabi ni Doc. And then parang I would voluntarily parang, "Oh, sige Doc, let's try na si elimination, let's try this na." Like you get excited for your healing journey because like, at least for me, like you see results,
Yes.
number one, and constantly communicating with your central doctor. And I'm spoiled for choice because I talk to all of you guys. um, parang it just puts you in that headspace of,
Yeah.
what, like I have no excuse not to be better and not to show up better for myself because
Mm-hmm.
this is the support system already.
Yeah.
Like I have that central doctor that I can talk to and ask questions, etc. And I don't feel the judgment. I don't feel the, ay nako, parang sabi ko sa'yo, wag mong gawin to eh. Yan tuloy. You know what I mean? So I, for me, like that's what I love. Like I thoroughly having, I'm enjoying my healing journey through self-care at Centro, because like that's the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, okay, if you're not ready to do elimination, that's fine, but what
Yep.
about we do supplementation muna,
Yes. Yep.
until you get to that, that headspace where you feel you can commit to it na, you
Yes,
know
exactly. And I think that's why I enjoy my time with Central, both being as a patient and as a doctor, because we do take the time to get to know each one of you. So
mm,
we know we will ask you what's realistic, what's not, what works for you better. Because at the
mhm.
end of the day, Kathy, what we try to aim for is self care is trying to get you into it long term. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like parang get into it 1 week lang or 2 weeks lang. And like in my head kasi that's how I was thinking pa na parang can I do this for forever? Because if I'm
Mm,
going to give up my meds, I have to be doing this forever. And
yeah.
by that like idea of you do things in a way that will fit your life, realistically speaking, then you
Yeah.
can do things better. Then you can do things long term. You can take it
Mm-mm.
with you. And it literally becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And now it's just like a second thought. Kumbaga, ang nagiging second thought ba, it's like, kain ba ako ngayon ng burger? Alam mo yun? And then yung
Exactly.
nagiging second thought. Ang first thought is, oh, I want to eat this today. It's more colorful. Oh, look at my plate. So,
Yeah.
it's parang retraining what we know,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, acknowledging our own realities.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we can do like the whole
Yeah.
self care. Really depends on how you actually see yourself in it.
Speaking of seeing yourself, oh wait, Lily Yu says hi, Doc Gladys. Aw.
Hello.
Hi, Lily. So, like, speaking of that, like, I think a lot of us, another misconception basically of self care is that it's all about aesthetics. It's all about
Mm.
how you look on the outside, which is, I think, what that very popular ad that got taken down was about, right? Like, you're in a pandemic. What do you look like? Um, and it just kind of just makes you kind of reflect of, I saw that ad, I was like, well, yeah, like she's on survival mode, like why
Mhm.
are you expecting her to look like perfect?
True.
There's a
Yep.
pandemic.
Yep.
But I think it's also people come in thinking about self-care and it being very superficial, what it looks
Yes.
on the outside, where my biggest lesson with Centro is it really is how you feel on the inside. And once you have an understanding of that and how you want to feel on the
Mhm.
inside, the outside just kind of follows. So
Follows.
if you've been dealing with, if you come into Centro because you feel that you've gained a lot of weight, you're not feeling that confident about yourself, maybe it isn't about the weight, maybe it really is about understanding how your gut works, or understanding your hormones, and like what your body is currently going through,
Yes.
and treating yourself with that love and compassion, that the outside, the weight loss, whatever, it will naturally follow,
Follow. Yep.
because you're fixing what's happening on the inside, you're detoxing, etc. Like my biggest challenge during this pandemic is, yeah, you can't really go out, you can't exercise,
Mm.
like I'm not sweating. Like bawal, like in our city, like I live in Las Piñas. In our city ngayon, because the Delta variant cases are up,
Mm.
bawal nang lumabas para mag-exercise.
Oh, even here in QC.
Kaloka, 'di ba? So it's like, okay, so how am I gonna go about that now?
Yeah.
But yeah, but just even just that simple detoxing through sweating, that was such a huge aha moment for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't know why I never thought about it. But now that I know that it's there, it's going to be part of my self-care now.
Yeah. I mean, like, even with my patients who would tell me na, doc, kasi ECQ, I can't go outside, Pero,
Mm.
doing household chores actually will make you sweat. And
Totoo.
that's one of the things that I always, like, try to share to my patients is that, as long as you're moving, we're happy that you're moving. As long as you're not
Mm,
just, let's say you work from home, as long as you're not just sitting all day, I'm okay with whatever you're doing, whether you're doing household chores or doing simple
mm,
exercises. These things kasi, Kathy, you can't force na parang it's ECQ outside this. So there
yeah,
ECQ is such a good excuse. But
yeah.
it's parang at the end of the day, if you think simple things, you
Mm,
definitely can still do something about it.
that's true. Oh, Doc Candy says, golf makes you sweat. Alam mo, Doc Candy, malapit ako magpabudol sa'yo, ah.
It
It's
does.
actually starting to look really good right now because oh nga naman, like the golf range, it's like it's huge.
Huge.
It's basically just you guys, you and whoever it is that you're with.
Yep.
Oo nga, and like you can go out and get sun and ano.
Mhm.
Like this ECQ is ruining my self-care in terms of detoxing talaga.
Yeah, yun lang. Well, we're almost out of it again.
Oo
Sad.
nga. Fingers crossed. But I think with what's happening though to us, like this is gonna be a normal part of life now already,
Mhm.
right? Like we're gonna go into lockdown every now and then. There's gonna be a new variant that's gonna pop up until everybody, bands together and does the work
Mhm.
to become immune to this. So it like for me, really, it's about okay, what do I need to do in my place to set myself up so if I need to isolate for like 3 months, buhay pa ako. You know what I mean? So really, I'm trying to set myself up to win in terms of like self-care sa bahay lang. So
Yeah,
I'm like considering,
exactly.
okay, I can do weights, I could like lift my dogs. Like, that would be they're not gonna be too happy, but like that's a good exercise, right? Walking them to
Yep,
hallway or
yep.
something like that. Just anything to make sure that you are still committing to yourself that I've said I'm gonna do this. This is part of my self-care routine.
Yep.
Gagawin ko siya ng paraan, right?
Actually, funny you mentioned that, Kathy, because getting the dog was actually a self care for me. Because I went through the first lockdown alone, so
Ay,
I
yeah,
I couldn't take it,
yeah.
and I was really happy that during the second lockdown and now I actually have a company. Well, I live with my husband, but he's usually outside also. So
Mm.
having the dog around, these things are part of self care. Um,
Oh, for sure.
having them parang as
Mm.
company really makes a lot of difference kasi.
Yeah, it's super like that emotional support animal. If you're a
Mm.
dog person, cat
Yep.
person, I'm a huge dog person myself, and I have two rescues. And yeah, in my head I was like, oh my gosh, buti na lang nandyan kayo
Yep.
because I would be bouncing off the walls if it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
Alam mo yun? So I'm like, I think they're tired of me na. Ayaw nila ako pansinin. Why are you still here? We don't have time to
We're
miss
supposed
you
to go.
anymore.
But Kathy, even yung mga Zoom like get-togethers, actually those
Mm,
help as part of
yeah.
self-care. Like planning a Zoom parang conversation with your friends.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get to see each other outside, but really trying to reach out to each other, that's already
Mm-mm.
self-care.
For sure. Like or like there are a lot of like Inuman
Yes,
sessions.
exactly.
Right? So if you're like me and Duck Gladys, like plan it out. Like
Yep.
plan out these Zoom sessions, interacting with people. I'm a super analog planner. Like I have to write
Mm.
everything down. Otherwise I forget it. So like my entire day, my routine is like it's here. Wait lang. I have like my little like planner.
Ah.
Doc Fran says I
Yes.
miss having a dog. Doc Fran, you should borrow from Doc Candy. She has two now. Borrow one of them every now and then. But yeah, it's just wonderful to have that emotional support animal. And even like when you leave the house, right? But ang sarap ng
Mhm.
feeling na pag uwi mo ng bahay,
I
yung
love it.
sasalubong sa'yo is
Yep.
just so happy to see you. They're excited that you're there. I keep telling my friends that like, feeling ko like with my two rescues, I've set myself up to fail like with my love life kasi Like, nobody's gonna greet me as
Oh,
lovingly as these two. Parang I want somebody to greet me like that. Like, pagpasok ko ng bahay, like they're that happy to see me and
yeah,
not just like, oh,
the
you're
two.
here. Hi. I love that. It's really like finding the tools and finding the support system that
Yes.
works for you. So if you're a
Mm-hmm.
dog person and
Yes.
like you want that furry companion, you want to be responsible for something, it's a nice and also parang you feel that your life has meaning.
Yeah. Even Kathy,
Mm,
like picking or like surrounding yourself with people who support your self care,
for
that's
sure.
self care. Because
Yeah.
there are parang some people would question you why you're doing things for self care. And
Mm-mm.
you surround yourself with individuals who support you and cheer you on because you're doing self care.
Oh, for sure. Like I have a name for that. I call them the mega negas. Yung may gusto kang gawin, tapos parang sa 10 kinuwento mo that is like super positive and
Yeah.
optimistic, they can find 11 things wrong with that. you know so it really, I think, also is being mindful of your space and who
Yes.
are the people that you allow into your life. And
Exactly.
some people say, kasama ko kasi si ganito, like kapatid ko, nanay ko, tatay ko, etc. Nega talaga sila eh. And that's fine. But the whole point is parang they can stay there. They can still be part of your life. We're not saying
Mm.
take them out. We're just saying
Mhm.
like restrict your time with them.
Exactly.
Para, you aren't getting those, those mega nega vibes na instead of feeling uplifted and optimistic, you feel
Yeah.
even worse about yourself after. And find that friend group or find that
Mhm.
support group. Now you guys can really cheer each other on and
Exactly.
keep yourselves accountable to the progress that you guys are
Exactly.
doing.
Mhm.
It's fine, like, like you can still love your mom and dad, and not listen to them when they
Mm.
kind of put you down in your health journey, and listen to these guys instead. So ngayon alam mo na, pagdating sa self-care, baka hindi mo na gets, okay lang yan. Dun tayo sa mga taong nakakaintindi sa pinagdadaanan natin, and get your support from there.
Yep.
um it's really, I think that being in that headspace also is
Mm.
really important, right?
Yeah.
So like for people who, for example, if you want to exercise,
Mm.
diba, don't put yourself into a foodie group, diba, na araw-araw puro pagkain lang yung laman ng post na nakikita mo. You might want to get out of your comfort zone and put yourself into a group of marathoners. So
Mm.
at least yung space mo online, on Facebook or wherever it is, like yun yung nakikita mo. People who are like,
Mhm.
oh, I did like 3 kilometers in X amount of minutes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then, you guys are, or this is what I'm eating. So
Mhm.
instead of looking at that burger, you're actually looking at that salad and going, yun pala yung tsura ng salad, no? Like, hindi pala siya puro gulay lang. Like, it can actually be more than that. Sige nga,
Yep.
if it works for
Yep.
him, I'll try that, give that a go.
Mhm.
Um, so it really is that, like, you're right. It really is, putting yourself in that space and making sure that you set yourself up to win for your
Yes.
self-care journey.
Exactly. Yep. I agree with that, Kathy. Because sometimes even those support, um, like these individuals should be able to support you even if you kind of stumbled and like sabihin
Mm,
nila, okay lang yan, keep
yeah.
going. And these are the individuals that you want to be around with. And
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely you're setting yourself up to win, like what Kathy's saying.
Yeah. Kasi like, for a lot of us, kasi like, and we talked about this in previous episodes.
Hmm.
Sometimes kasi dun talaga your problems, your chronic problems are because of how you were raised and what is normal for you. So,
Mm-hmm.
like if you come into the clinic and you're complaining about that you're prone for diabetes because your entire family has it, then it's probably in the food that you're eating and what you've prepared that you've come to consider to be normal,
Mm-hmm.
which probably isn't normal for other families. So really, a lot of the times, kasi like a lot of people feel down because it's their family members who don't support the
Mm.
self-care journey. But I think it's just kind of taking a different perspective and
Yeah.
understanding that that's not normal for them. And
Mm-hmm.
even for you, it's out of your comfort zone. So it's normal to feel uncomfortable. But the important thing is that you show up for yourself and you do those
Exactly.
small steps to kind
Exactly.
of like set yourself up to win when, in terms of your health. And for
Correct.
all you know, you could also be affecting your family members in a good way, right? Like they
Exactly.
might realize na parang, oh nga no, like puro ganito yung kinakain namin. Like my family's from Batangas, like my mom's side.
Oh, me
And
too.
pork is king, right? Kada fiesta, it's like sampung putahe na puro baboy. You have adobo, humba, etc., etc., etc. And my family on that side has a history of hypertension. I wonder why. So it really is that. And you being the one to be mindful and starting on your health self-care
Exactly.
journey is showing them what's possible.
Yes, exactly. Like I am like I my husband is we're basically in a different headspace right now. So he does a lot of, he buys a lot of, unhealthy stuff. But for me kasi Kathy, out of sight, out of mind. Pag hindi ko
Mm,
nakikita, parang I'm okay, I won't eat it. Pero
yeah.
kasi it's there. So, and parang, uh, but you make things the most out of what you are, what you have, and the way you can deal with that is just like, lock the cabinet para you you
Mm,
can get anything. So you work around the things that can enable you to still follow on that journey that you're in. Kasi parang
mm,
if you're gonna say na it's okay kasi ganito talaga yung environment ko, then I can't do
yeah.
anything, then that's probably a different kind of mindset. Your mindset should be, I can do something about it. Let me work my way around these things so I can set myself up in a
Oh, for
better
sure.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, I call that scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling in scarcity, like you're in victim mode, you
Mm.
are parang lahat na lang, the world is out to get you, like everything I do, I fail, etc.
Yep.
Abundance is really being open to possibilities, being learning optimism, and
Mm-hmm.
really knowing that, what, like I am in full control of my life. So what
Yes.
choices am I making today versus, oh,
Mhm.
I'm a victim kasi of my life. Like this is my life now. I have no choice but to live in it.
Yep.
Um, and I think just changing that perspective alone is so empowering for
Yep.
anybody who wants to start their self care journey. So Doc Gladys, we're actually at the top of the hour now.
Right.
Um, before I let you go, do you have just one good tip for people who are on their self care journey and just need that motivation to keep on going?
For me, just the same as what I said earlier. Don't beat yourself up.
Mm,
Self care, however you look at it, is self care. As long as you feel good from the inside, so do what makes you happy. It has to be, self care is about, self love. So anything that you do, however that looks like, kung kaiba man yan with your other friends, that's okay. As
mm.
long as you're giving yourself time to reflect, to take the time off, to eat the things that you enjoy, that's self-care. So doesn't matter what that looks like.
Do what works for you, for sure.
Yep.
I think my biggest learning from like our hour, it's been an hour na pala, no, an hour conversation. It's really that self-care starts from the inside.
Exactly. Yep.
It's an inside job. A lot of us, I think the biggest misconception is self-care is what you look like, and that's not it.
Mm.
Self-care is really how you feel, and it reflects on the outside.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it for our wellness weekend topic. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Doc Gladys, for those who want to find you, which branches are you in? What days?
Okay, well, I'm in Sensa Grove on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then in QC Thursdays and Saturdays.
There you go. So if you guys want to find out Gladys, talk about your healing journey. If you want to get
Mhm.
started and you want to work with her, you can PM us or set an appointment through those branches. We're very strict now because it's ECQ and only accept patients via appointment.
Mhm.
So yeah, looking forward to seeing you, Doc Gladys,
You
soon.
too, Frankie. Thank you for this. It's been fun.
It's been super fun for me as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, that's kind of it for us, guys. Bye. Have a great weekend.